Listen, I'm straight up glad that the fights are back. And on May 30th, cross your fingers, the fights will be back from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. And the second fight on this card, on the prelims, we have The Last Samurai, Luis Smolka, who's still moving and shaking. This time at 135 pounds, is rejoining the UFC, taking on the former LFA flyweight champ and interim bantamweight champ in Casey Kenney, a guy who's kind of set the world on fire since he's gotten his shot in the UFC. Now, I understand, his last fight didn't go all that well against, oh boy, how do I put this? Come on, Merab Dvalishvili, but he had two big wins before that over Ray Borg and a blown-up Manny Bermudez when they fought, and there was a huge size discrepancy in that fight. Casey Kenney able to overcome it, but he's taken on a tough test in Luis Smolka, a guy who did a lot of things at 125 pounds, then all of a sudden went on a 4-fight skid, got cut from the UFC. He kind of plies his trade outside of the promotion, goes 3-0 in 2018 to get a shot back in, gets a win over Sue Mudderji, a big finish, and now we're here. I mean, he lost to Matt Schnell. He won his last fight over Ryan McDonald. What do you make of this one? Because I think there's one key thing that Casey Kenney can exploit.
So, Luis Smolka is a really good grappler if you go back and watch his fights. He's really good at scrambling, but the problem is he doesn't scramble to a position where he can get a finish from. He's not like a Tony Ferguson where it's, you go for the takedown, I'm going to do a front flip and then try to get on your back, and then worst case, I'll go for a triangle. Luis Smolka's very happy to be on his back during the fight, and I think Casey Kenney's going to be able to exploit that, because Casey Kenney, when you look at his fighting style, he does things very similarly to Ray Borg and Tim Elliott, two guys who have wins over Luis Smolka, and I know he did have that fight with Ray Borg, so it's an easy comparison to make, but Casey Kenney basically does everything Ray Borg does. They're very similar fighters, very good wrestlers, but very volume heavy on the feet. Not a really powerful guy either with the striking, but I do think if he can get on the inside of Luis Smolka's reach, he will be able to do some damage, and once the fight goes to the ground, it's not that Smolka can't pull off a submission off his back. He could get a guillotine. He could get a triangle. He could find his way on top. I think it's much more likely, though, that Casey Kenney's going to be able to just keep on going for the takedowns, do just enough on top to keep position, and kind of ride his way out to a decision.
It's an interesting matchup nonetheless, and I mean, you might look at it a couple of different ways. I mean, Luis Smolka, since he's been back in the UFC, the submission win over Sue Mudderji, in his last fight, knockout win in the first round over Ryan McDonald. In this one, I was kind of surprised when we started looking up the odds, because Casey Kenney is a minus 260 favorite, Luis Smolka coming in at a plus 210.
Pretty wild.
Odds this, different or apart, we haven't seen it too much, since the UFC's come back over the long hiatus, since we had Brasilia all the way to UFC 249. The odds have been pretty close in the majority of the fights, and over on Tapology, out of 362 votes, again, an overwhelming majority, 2/3 picking Kenney to get the win, 91% predicting a decision win for Casey Kenney. Are you riding the hot hand of Casey Kenney?
I think so. It's just, I've seen Luis Smolka not give up. I know how to beat Luis Smolka, because there's been sort of a game plan that other guys have been able to follow. Mateus Nicolau was able to do it. Just don't get taken down by him. He's not the best striker, and he doesn't have that one-punch knockout or kick power. So as long as you can keep him sort of busy and then just go for the occasional takedown, I think you can beat Luis Smolka, and I think Casey Kenney's kind of the perfect guy for it.
I think Casey Kenney can definitely do it. He can have some different setups on the feet where he's a southpaw, and he can at least set up his takedowns a little bit differently than the majority of the fighters that Luis Smolka's faced in the past. Now, altogether, it makes for a really good matchup. It should be a fun one, unless it's just Casey Kenney laying prey for the majority, but I don't think you'll get that. So I'm going to side with Casey Kenney here.
So am I.
It should be a really interesting one. You're not going to want to miss the rest of our predictions for the card. 5 minutes for Tyron Woodley taking on Gilbert Burns in the main event. 2 minutes for the rest of the main card and the prelims. Keep it locked in with Fight Night picks for this card. All the cards in the future. And as we always say, Matt, with Fight Night picks,
let's get into it.
Let's get into it.